Hello chess fam, it's me National Master Jesse James, and today I'm going over my second game I got to play against Jude Acers. This was a blitz game. It was very fast. We did 5 minutes each person, and well, this was played after our previous game. The first game we played was a 1 hour and 30-minute game, and that was in a Scandinavian. And well, after the game, he said one more. I was like, oh man, my girlfriend's right here, I've got to go. But he would not take no for an answer, so here was the game that we got to play. For those of you who don't know, Jude Acers is a very strong chess player out of New Orleans. He likes to make the claim that he is actually the strongest player from New Orleans since Paul Morphy, and I'm very inclined to believe him. Alright, so let's go and take a look at this game. In the first game, I got the white pieces, and he chose the Scandinavian. This time, he got the white pieces. He played d4. Let's see what happens. We start with d4, knight f6, knight c3. I was like, oh gosh, not another Jabava London. As you guys know, it's very, very popular opening these days. I played pawn to d5, bishop g5, and I was happy to see this. This is a very aggressive opening here. This is the Richard Versoff attack, and I got to play it a few times, and I think it's a pretty good opening here for white. Now, it does have a lot of drawbacks as far as the pawn structure. Because the knight came to c3, the c-pawn wasn't moved out. Long term, strategically speaking, it is a bit worse, but you get plenty of attacking chances for it. And so I went ahead and played the main line, pawn to e6, pawn to e3, c5 here. One of the benefits that I didn't move my knight out first is I can try and trade off this pawn. He went ahead and played pawn f4, a move I haven't really seen too much in this position, which it's a very aggressive move here. It does make the dark squares weak a little bit, the d4 and b2 pawn, but yep, I definitely think it's a way to play. I played h6, trying to kick this bishop off a little bit. Bishop h4, knight to c6, pawn to a3. And here, I thought I was winning a pawn. I played c takes, e takes, queen b6, attacking both the d4 pawn and b2. But he replied very quickly with knight f3, and I realized, uh-oh, something's afoot here, right? Hopefully, you guys can see why queen takes on b2 would actually be a humongous blunder here. Feel free to push pause if you want to take a look. Well, if you do take that pawn, unfortunately, you just lost your queen. After knight to a4, all the squares for the queen are taken. b6 is being controlled by the knight and attacking the queen. b3 the pawn, b4 this pawn, and the bishop over on b5 here. I know that he's definitely won a few games like this because, well, I almost just fell for it right now. Thankfully, I took a second, looked at it, and I was like, oh, dear Lord, he's got a nice trap there. So I went ahead and just played solid here with bishop e7. Bishop over to d3. I mean, he's done a great job with his pieces development. This light square bishop is usually always a problem in d4 games. Bishop over to d7. I didn't castle right away because I wasn't sure what he was up to. You know, something like queen to d2 can be a little scary castling queenside, especially if I castle so fast and you can push these pawns forward. So I just kind of did a waiting move there. And here he played knight to e5, and this was a very aggressive move, but I knew that this was now a blunder, and I can at least win a pawn here. There actually is a few ways to win a pawn here, but I will say in most of the ways you do win a pawn, there is some compensation here for white. Alright, which way did I play? I went ahead and took on b2 here. Now, those are looking, you might say, hey, you could take on d4 here too. This is also true. You can also go ahead and play here, knight takes on e5, which is something I actually do later on. But, yeah, knight takes d4. This is a way to win the pawn, but after bishop f2, what's it called? The pin here is actually very annoying, and it's not so simple just to play something like bishop c5 here, as after b4, you are going to be losing to this pin over here. I think I hear someone saying, hey, what's up with knight takes on c2 check? Queen takes, and it defends the bishop over here on f2. If you do want to win the pawn on d4, you can also play queen takes on d4, and the trades here really don't help out white too much. After knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes, yeah, black's just up an extra pawn here, and there's no good discoveries here for the bishop just yet. But I went ahead and played queen takes on b2 here, realizing that the knight was now hanging, and I thought I was going to be able to win the d4 pawn. Although I did miss his follow-up move, which actually was pretty strong. He went ahead and played knight to b5 here, and I was like, oh dear Lord, this looks like a very bad position for me now. He's threatening rook b1 ideas. The queen could be trapped here if I wait too long over here. Or maybe not b1 trapping the queen, but I think you can just get like a draw by repetition right there. And also threatening knight to c7. So if you just go ahead and castle here, this is winning with the tactic of knight takes on d7 here, and also rook to b1 here. So knight takes d7 will be winning here. After knight takes, now you can go ahead and take on e7. Knight takes, and then apparently you just play rook over to b1. And you can see that, yeah, this is just going to be a bad position here. White can take a draw if they want to, or just keep harassing you. But luckily, I was able to find the winning move. Feel free to push pause if you can find it. I hope he pushed pause, and he found the very nice knight takes on e5 here. Very nice move here. Definitely the only move in the position that was actually winning. And here the idea is after pawn takes back, I mean, you're more than welcome to try knight c7 check, but after this, the king just goes to d8, and if knight takes, we get knight takes on d3 check, pawn takes or queen takes, doesn't matter. This knight's actually trapped in the corner, and my piece is actually very active here. I have a negative 0.8 in this position. So here after knight takes on e5, he went ahead and just played pawn takes back. And now the idea, bishop takes on b5. Now this looks like it's winning a piece, but it's just winning a pawn over here. He took back on f6. I played queen c3 check. Of course, the more trades, the better for me. King e2, bishop takes, pawn takes. Bishop takes on f6. Not the best move here, but a move I played. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen a4 check, queen to c6. Here, just ready for the endgame. And here he did play the best move. He trades down to an endgame. Queen takes, pawn takes, and rook over to b1. I do have a negative 3 advantage, although they say all rook and pawn endgames are drawn, and it only takes one little mistake to get into a bad position here, especially whenever your opponent gets their rook active. Here I went ahead and castled, as I thought this was the best way to defend. He played rook over to c1, putting pressure on the c pawn. Again, another very strong move, I thought. Rook to c8, rook to b7, and here, with the rook on the 7th and getting ready to get behind the pawns, it's definitely a tough position for me, at least. And, well, I played pawn f5. The idea is to try to get the king to a better square. a4, king g7, a5, king f6, a6. And here, I mean, he's pretty much clamped down. It's really hard for me to make progress in this position. The only way to make progress is actually to, well, sack a pawn. Here I went ahead and played rook over to b8. And, well, they always say in your endgames, play as aggressive as possible, play as active as possible, and that's the idea of this move. If he does take here on a7, that's okay. I will retain my advantage with rook over to b2 check. We assume the king will go to f3 to defend the pawn, and now my rook can go to a2, and it'll be stopping this pawn from moving forward. And my rook can also get active here. Maybe I can push over here, but it's one way to move forward in this position. After I played rook over to b8, because I need to get the rook active, he went ahead and played the rook over to b1. And, well, I was happy to see this. Now I go ahead and take, and here he took back with the rook. Playing pawn takes would lead to a very bad endgame after rook b8. Now the rook's tied down, and I'll be able to push these pawns forward, and, yeah, I'll be winning this b7 pawn, or trading it off for a different pawn over here. So, rook takes on b7 got played, the best move. Pawn c5, again, get your rook active. Pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook over to a5. Now I am up an extra pawn, and I can slowly start pushing forward here. I have some passed pawns over here, and unfortunately, your rook is his rook is in the wrong position. Remember, you want rooks behind the passed pawn, not in front of it. As you can see, the problem here is the rook is in the way of this pawn. All right, here we go. h4, rook over, g3, pawn over, king over to d2, and here I went ahead and played pawn to f4. Apparently, this was not the best move in the position, and the idea here was for me to go ahead and trade off so I can try to make a passed pawn here. He went ahead and took, I took, and then he played rook over to a8. Apparently not the best move. Apparently you're supposed to go king to c3 over here, and the idea is to try and play d4 to cut this rook off from moving backwards over here. At this point, it's already saying this is a drawn position. All right, they say rook and pawn endgames are draws. I'm starting to believe it now. And so here he played rook over to a8, which makes sense. He wants to play a7 and the rook over. Now, it would be good for him to get the king over to b3, because then he can go ahead and start pushing this pawn forward and move the rook over, as this rook won't be able to move over to a4. Well, since he played that, I was able to snack on one more pawn. Now I have created a few other passed pawns here, so all I gotta do is defend this a pawn. King over to c3, rook a4, only move, pawn to a7, and now I just went ahead and played king to e5. Here I want to start pushing my f pawn. Now you have to be careful if you play a silly move like something like king to g6, rook to g8 check gets played, and then they can queen. So the idea is very simple. Just go ahead and keep your king off an open file where the rook can check you, but you can push your pawn forward. What will typically happen here is he'll have to trade off this rook for this pawn over here, because I'll keep pushing it, and he'll need to stop it, and when his rook comes over to stop it, I'll win this pawn. And after that, it's just an elementary win of being up 2 extra pawns. I went ahead and played king e5, threatening pawn to f5. Again, I'm just going to let these pawns jump in the way for me. Pawn to d4 check, and then here I played king to f5. You could definitely play king to e4 here, but yeah, again, this was a blitz game, and I think both of us were getting low on time at this point. He played rook over to h8, as this was inevitable to happen anyways. I took the pawn, he took the pawn. I played king f6, and at this point he did flag. I mean, at this point too, this is just a winning position, so who wants to play up these kind of games? But it was very fun. I got to meet and play against Jude Acers. I mean, he's a very, very tough chess player, and I was very happy I got to play him at least at least before he's not playing chess anymore. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to give us that like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.